Hey guys, Fishing BC with CJ with another video. Today is June 13th, so we are in the middle or just the beginning basically of our saltwater coho opening for hatchery fish along the west coast. Today I'm going to do a solo video without Cameron. Cameron's still in Europe, fishing, school, doing etc. But we're going to do some saltwater gear today. Got a lot in stock for you guys. We're going to go over rods, reels, line, flashers, spoons, hoochies, plugs, depths to fish at, all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to get into the tides, ebb and flow, slack tide, this and that, and particular spots just because I myself haven't really keyed in specifically on those ebb and flow tides. I'm just going to talk strictly gear. This is going to be a great introductory video if you want to step into saltwater salmon trolling. And it's going to be really informational. If you got questions, shoot them below. You guys should all probably know on Instagram by now. It's at Fishing BC with CJ. And yeah, we'll get going from here. So the first thing you need before you can actually touch a rod and reel in the salt is a saltwater license issued by the DFO. So the DFO does a separate licensing system from your freshwater salmon license, so you will have to go figure that one out on your own. Just go DFO saltwater salmon license, get the license, make sure you have the salmon tag on it, and then you can pick how many days or if you want the whole annual season. Another license that you should have, depending if you have a boat or not, is obviously your boating license. Make sure you have that if you're going to fish out of your own vessel. If you're doing a boat rental, like I think there's one out of Granville Island, or if you're on the Sunshine Coast, there is the Sunshine Coast Resort Marina. You will have to fill out a temporary license, which is this guy here. You basically just read through it, check mark everything, put your information on the back, and then it's like a temporary one-day license. That's a great option if you don't own your own vessel and you want to just get out there. A nice thing about the Sunshine Coast Resort is you can also rent Downriggers from them for $50. So it's great and easy if you just want to get out there for a day or a couple days, depending where you are. So after you've got your licensing sorted, we want to know what is, trolling for salmon. So our style of trolling is really unique. It's completely different from what happens down the coast from us, our southern brothers. What they do is definitely different from what we do. Our style of fishing is pretty unique to basically just sort of British Columbia, and then there's different sort of plays and takes based off each angler's preferences. But basically for us, we fish with a Cannonball off a downrigger. We have a release clip that is attached to our main line, and then we have some sort of either you can run a flasher out the back to a spoon or a hoochie, run a plug. There's a trillion different ways to set up your actual fishing gear, but essentially it's a line in a clip connected to a Cannonball that is set down to XYZ depth you want to fish at, and then that's basically salmon trolling. So the first thing we'll sort of talk about, we won't do rods, reels yet. We'll get into that. We'll start talking about your downrigger setup. That's kind of important. So there's a lot of different downriggers. There's two sort of main downrigger companies. There's Cannon and there's Scotty. Scotty sort of has, I would say Scotty is like the monopoly downrigger company on the West Coast. But as soon as you head east into the Great Lakes, it is all Cannon. So that's like the easiest way to put it. Cannon is actually globally recognized. Scotty is more of just like a West Coast thing. But regardless, since I use Scotty, I'm a little more familiar with Scotty. I'll give you sort of a rundown of their models. So you got the manual Scotty downrigger, which is the guy you got to crank up, and you got to crank it up manually when you bring your ball up. Whenever I use a manual, I like to do 10 to 12 pounds max. I don't like any heavier. 15, 18, 20 is just a chore. It's a pain in the ass to get it up. And if you have to use a 15, 18, 20 and you're fishing deep, good luck with a manual. It's an absolute bitch. I'd say like for me, when I fish a manual, like 0 to 60, 0 to maybe 80 at the absolute deepest. Anymore, it's just you just sit there and just gotta sit there and crank, or your buddy's gotta sit there and crank. It's not the most fun, but if you haven't got the funding for the 1106 or the 2106 whatever series, then a manual is a great place to start. After manual, you got the 1106s, your depth tower series sorta. On those guys, I like to run 12, 15-pound cannonballs. Um, those sort of work the best. 15 for deeper stuff. 12 for, if you're fishing 0 to 80, maybe 0 to maybe 85 at the most. 12-pound cannonball feels great. The 15, I like to fish 100 to 180 around there. So if I'm fishing deeper for Chinooks, that 15-pound cannonball works great. You can try an 18, and 18 is going to put a lot of strain though on the 1106 because it's not the high power downrigger. It's going to be a grind for it to sort of bring it all the way up. That 18 pounds is it's a lot of weight for that downrigger. If you want to fish 15s, 18s, 20s all day, you don't care, then you step into your high power series, your 2106s, your 2116s. Your 15 is going to come up really quick. That high power just brings it straight up to the surface, no problem. Your 18 is probably what I'd say is the best on it. Doesn't bring it up too fast, and it's also not like slow with the 20. So 18 is going to be sort of like the go-to on the 2100 series for Scotty. I like it fishing deep. It's not it's heavy enough where like you don't have to troll super fast or super slow. You get nice angles out of it. And also when you fish shallow, it's whatever you drop it, gets down to 50 feet, no problem. And then you got your 20 pounders. That's going to be, you're fishing like 200 plus feet, like winter Chinook fishing, or you're fishing like entrance where you're like fishing basically down on the bottom, glow flashers, and you need to get down there and stay down there. So then your 20, that's where the 20 steps in. The downriggers will come with braid or stainless steel cable on them. Some guys swear by braids, some guys swear by stainless steel cable. Personally, after having a couple bad experiences with cable, I like fishing the braid. That 250-pound braid, it just has a lot more lifetime than running the steel cable. That steel cable, you just gotta know it will rust. I remember our first trip out last year, we lost 3 cannonballs on one downrigger because it had rusted spots in just multiple parts of the cable, and we just didn't really check. To be fair, we should have done a pre-fishing check on that stuff to make sure it looked okay, but we didn't, and we got bit in the ass for it. So we lost like $180 worth of cannonballs. So, but now I like fishing the braid. Um, I have no problems, attaching clips, to the braid, no problem, none of that stuff. Just lasts a lot longer. You also, what I like to do now is I just buy a bulk spool, basically of 250-pound braid from, Alibaba, AliExpress, whatever, overseas, 250 pounds, and you get a massive spool of it for like $100, and you save, no offense, you save a lot more money than buying the 400-foot spools from Scotty. So if you want to fish braid, I would get one of those giant ass spools from overseas, the 250-pound braid. That'll last that'll last you a while. Like I think we've respooled both downriggers probably like 4 times over. We still have like half spool left of 250-pound braid, so it's good for you want to fish a lot and you want to fish a long time as well. The steel cable stuff, a lot of guys like the steel cable. I've assuming our steel cable is fine, I would have nothing wrong fishing steel cable. Just know that you'll be replacing it after maybe like a season and a half. Like it will rust, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, after you figured out what downrigger you're using, what weights you're using, what cables, the clips and stuff, like the length of the boom, the length of your line clips, all that stuff just comes to angler preference and sort of like the size of your boat. Shorter the clip, shorter the length of the release clip, smaller the boat, and shorter boom on your downrigger. The 60-inch clips, that's meant for longer boom, longer boat sort of thing. I fish 60s everywhere. Doesn't matter the size of boat. I just like fishing a 60-inch release clip. That's just a me thing. But as you sort of get into saltwater fishing, you'll sort of figure out what you like to fish. And once you start fishing it, you fish it with confidence and you just make it work. So finally, we can actually talk about the actual fishing gear. So first thing we'll talk about is rods. I fish Loomis E6X's. This is basically like top of the line saltwater mooching trolling rods. This is a 10.5 foot medium heavy, and it's rated 10 to 30 pounds. This is a really nice rod. It gives you a really nice parabolic rod action when it's in the rod holder fully loaded up. You get a really nice even bend, sort of like that. And these things you can really crank down on. But obviously, a rod this nice does cost you an arm and a leg. They're like $500, and obviously not all of us can start off at that level. There are plenty of options that are cheaper and will get the job done. You got your Fenwick HMXs, you got Shimano Techniums, Shimano Clarises, West Coast Fishing Tackle. They do rods. You got Amundsen rods. A lot of companies do saltwater trolling rods, but I think if I were to sort of pick a rod, I would look for a rod 10.5 feet, basically medium heavy, and I'd look for something with a really nice parabolic action. I don't like super tippy rods because you high stick, when you're trying to bring that fish in close to the bone, you high stick. Super tippy rods tend to snap. If you have something that's going to load deeper, then you won't really have a problem with that high sticking. So basically, yeah, 10.5 foot medium heavy, 10 to 30 pounds with a nice parabolic action is where you want to be. When it comes to reels, again, lots of reels. Me and Cameron, we fish MR3s, so Islander MR3s. That's their mooching reel. Those again, high, like top end reels, $850. Um, you know, there's again a lot of options. You got, let me think, you got Daiwa M1s. Those are like the plasticky ones with the clip with the switch to basically free spool, which is nice if you're mooching. Shimano does a version of that. It's like the GT4000, the GT2000, whatever it's called. And then after that, you'll step into your machined reel. So you got Amundsen. Amundsen makes a great TMX5 at like 400 and something bucks. They're great. And then for the guys that are, fishing a lot, hard on the gear, Islander, Abels, like that's up here. So basically what you're looking for in a reel is something with a smooth drag, something with a large arbor, and something ideally not made out of plastic. The plastic will just die in the salt. Even top of the line reels, you still need to take care of. You can't just ignore them because salt. It doesn't matter how good it's built. Salt will chew through anything. It will find a way to. So that's what I would look for. For me on this reel, I don't have actually my MR3s. I forgot to bring them with me to the Sunshine Coast. So on this guy, I'm running a Reddington Behemoth 1112, which is just like a giant fly reel. And the only difference between a fly reel and a trolling / mooching reel is a trolling mooching reel is just a beefier version of a giant fly reel. So that guy there is set up with 250 yards of 65-pound Power Pro backing, and then it goes to 100 feet of orange 30-pound Pro Spec. Ideally, when you're setting up your mooching trolling reels with mono, you want to go with like 50 yards of 30-pound backing to like your 30 or 40-pound mono. Or if you're fishing braid, you go 50 yards of backing to like 200 so odd yards of braid, 65-pound braid, and then off your braid you go a 30 to 40 foot top shot of 40-pound mono. And that 40-pound mono is what you clip into, is what goes into clip because the braid will chew it up real good. That actually leads us to our next section, which is going to be line. So you'll see a lot of guys run mono, a lot of guys run braid. Braid works great if you're fishing deep because braid has no stretch. So if you're fishing entrance or you're fishing, I don't know, like winter chinooking, you're fishing really deep, braid is great because braid does not stretch. So if you go to pop that clip at 250 feet, you're popping straight braid. You have your mono in your clip, you'll have a low mono, obviously, going to your braid. But aside from that, you're just pulling on straight braid. So it's super tight. And, once you pop that clip, you pop the clip. Mono works better shallower, even though it has a little stretch to it. But if you're fishing shallow, like 0 maybe to 120, 140 maybe at the most, mono works great. Yeah, you got to really pop it because it's got some stretch and play to it. But again, like if you're fishing shallow, no need for braid. Also, mono is way cheaper than braid. Like you want to spool up 200 yards of mono, it's like a third to a quarter of the price of spooling that in braid. When it comes to brands of line, I like Pro Spec and I like the Power Pro V2, that super slick stuff. It's really nice. Power Pro I really like as mono because it's really limp and it doesn't coil, doesn't have terrible memory. Some brands have really bad memory and you'll just come off in coils off your reel, which I'm not a big fan of. I like the limp stuff. And the braid, that 65-pound Super Slick V2, that stuff has that really nice coat, that wax coating on it. Feels really nice. Going in and out of guides, like going to set and pull it off the clip, just that is sort of like the go-to. Obviously, Maxima is it's like a right off the top of the brain when it comes to most guys. Maxima works great. I just find that I end up changing more Maxima reels out than Pro Spec reels out when it comes to that mono game. So I'm not too sure what the big differences are, but Pro Spec just seems to last longer in that sun, in the salt, than the Maxima stuff does. So after your line, we need to look at a little bit of terminal tackle. That's very important. So what do you connect basically your main line to your flasher? So for this, you'll see I've got an interesting contraption here. It comprises of a 6-ball bead chain, a split ring, a barrel swivel, and then a dual lock snap. This system here is to get rid of all the line twists that'll come from your flasher. Your flasher spins, you don't want to directly tie it to your main line because then your main line's just going to twist and spin with it. There was one thing missing. There should be a big bead here, like an 8mm bead. That's just so you know when to stop reeling, so you don't reel into your tip and snap your tip. There are guys, obviously there are guys will just tie straight to their flasher, but if you really want to reduce all that twist, you gotta this series of terminal tackle will release all the twist in your main line when you run a flasher. So now it's flasher talk time. I'm just going to give you the general breakdown. Everyone's got their favorite flasher, but I'm just going to show you a couple flashers I use and sort of they're just like general, like they'll work wherever the fuck you are sort of flashers. We'll start shallow and then work our way deeper because that makes the most sense. Just get my flasher set up here really quick. So first flasher, this is a green bladed Twisted Sister. The Twisted Sister is recognizable by this big orange stripe that comes down the side. It's got a full UV backside and that moon jelly UV tape on the front side. And this is a great flasher if you're fishing shallow Chinooks, 0 to 60 feet on the Downrigger. This works amazing. Paired with it, no banana spoon, never go wrong. Killer setup for shallow Chinooks. Since right now we're fishing shallow coho, then I'm going to show you guys my two go-to coho flashers. Purple LLC lemon lime chartreuse with a full UV backside and that moon jelly tape on the front side. Just lights up in the water. It is beautiful. It's so enticing. It's hard to see why a coho wouldn't eat that. That's this guy here. I'll pair this up with UV nickel spoons, nickel plated spoons, your nickel purple, nickel chartreuse, nickel blues, that sort of thing. Work brilliant off this flasher. My next go-to coho flasher is going to be the Purple Crush. Love this flasher. It just picks up so much sunlight. You can see it just catch the reflection here. And off of this, I've got a UV Hoochie, and that's got your double tandem hooks off of that. As we venture deeper in the water column, let's say you got murky water up near the surface, you got to get under that murky water. You got to fish a little deeper, that 60 to maybe 120-foot range where you get a bit of UV from the sun, you get some glow because you're fishing deep. And that's where I'm going to pull something like my lemon lime chartreuse blade with the full glow back. This is a great sort of, you can fish this at whatever water column because you're always going to either have glow coming off of it or reflections off the UV front side. Trick about the glow flashes, if you have glue tape, grab a UV light, put it up against the light, just shine it and it will just absorb all that UV. And as soon as you drop it down deep, it will just light up down there and it works really great. So these style of flashers have glow UV. They're great for sort of just, you have no clue where you're going and you want to fish at whatever depths. It will always work. This guy is paired up with what I think this is right, an Irish cream. Correct me if I'm wrong. Might not be an Irish cream. Close enough to an Irish cream. Chartreuse yellow white. It's got a glow backside. Again, this is like another killer Chinook setup for fishing a little deeper, not near the surface. After you've gone through 0 to 60, 60 to 120, you're fishing deeper than 120, you're getting no sun penetration, basically very little. That's where your full glow flashers come in. So this is a glow herring aid on a chartreuse blade. This is one of those sort of Chinook flashers that just work everywhere. There'll be a lot of different glow flashers. You can get blacks, you can black with full glow, red, purple, green, chartreuse, a lot of different glow flashers, but basically your glow comes out when you're fishing deep. And you're gonna be fishing deep when you're fishing like winter Chinooking, you fish deep, or if you're gonna fish like entrance, the trench on the island side, then you want your glow stuff as well. Obviously, off your glow flashers, you should fish a glow spoon or hoochie. Makes the most sense. Glow on glow, you're fishing deep. UV on UV when you're fishing up shallow, and then it sort of doesn't matter if you're fishing like that sort of 60 to 120 gap. It doesn't really matter what you throw on. Especially if you have one of those flashers again that has that UV front side, glow backside, then it doesn't really matter what you put off the end of that. So after, well, actually, I should also note there's a front and a back end to a flasher. So you can see the side with just the straight barrel swivel that will connect to your main line. That'll be pointing basically towards your rod and reel. The clip here is the back side. Okay, this is the tail end of it. That clip is there so you can snap in your different leaders that are pre-tied. Okay, don't swing it around this way. Okay, if you think this is the front side, you're doing something wrong. It's not going to spin properly. It's going to look really weird. Okay, so that clip side to your bait, barrel swivel side to your rod. Okay, just remember that, guys. Now you've picked your flasher. What do you want to put off the end of that? A lot of different options: spoons, hoochies. You can roll bait. A lot of different, obviously, and then there's a lot of different options to pick, like from spoons, hoochies, and rolling bait. I'll just give you guys a general rundown again. First thing we'll look at is spoons. I fish spoons a lot. I like fishing spoons. I like fishing the single hook. I just find that you do a lot less damage when compared to fishing like a hoochie with a double hook, or if you fish, or if you roll bait with like that treble single, you just do a lot less damage with the single hook. You tend not to get the hook up as deep. It's going to be more corner mouth or just top bottom lip sort of thing. So I'll just show you a couple here. Grabbed a couple more today actually because I'm going to be here for a while on the coast. So we're fishing shallow, right? Lots of UV, lots of nickel. So you got your West Coast fishing tackle. This guy is the Halo Sexy E, and this is the 69. So it's a nickel plate. Lots of flash coming off of that. And then you got stuff like your Silver Hold Gold Stars, Coho Killers. This is UV, so this is nice up shallow. And then like your nickel plating, so you got your skinny G's with nickel plating front and back side, great up shallow. You got your nickel yellows, another great up shallow. So these are all going to be great, sort of 0 to 65 at the most, I would say, up nice and shallow. As soon as you kind of get underneath that, I like to pull out more glow. So something like this, right? That glow backside works great. You got your green herring aids. These work good fishing deep. They got that nice glow back, so you can't see it still on packaging. Sorry about that. West Coast fishing fatty spoons. These glow up great. Yeah, a lot of different brands, a lot of different options. Glow UV, some are glow and UV. So definitely a lot to think about when it comes to spoon selection. Also, your size of spoon sort of matters. If you're fishing coho, I like to fish the smaller stuff. So stuff like the coho killer, I like the size. That's like perfect size for coho. Smaller for coho, basically. Bigger for Chinook. If you're fishing like pinks, sockeye, smaller works better as well. After spoons is probably also the after spoons. Actually, before we go after spoons, leader length on spoons. If you're fishing Chinooks, I like a 6-foot leader. You get a really nice slow roll. That's sort of what the Chinooks like. Coho, 4-foot leaders. They like it faster, like more erratic action, and you'll get absolutely hammered by them. After spoons, we'll look at hoochies. Hoochies are, one of those things just like spoons. You can fish them anywhere you want. You can get them pre-tied, you can get them in packs, so you can tie your own. Basically, your Hoochie needs something to go in the head, so this doesn't collapse. You need 2 hooks, and then optional, you can get like inserts to add some flash. I'll just tie one up for you guys. I'll show you how I like to tie them. So I got 2 4-aughts. I usually run a 4-aught, 3-aught. 4-aught near the head, 3-aught near the as the trailer. I forgot 3-aught. I forgot to buy 3-aught, so I got 4-aught, 4-aught. Nothing wrong with that. And I'm just going to show you guys how I like to do this. So here, what I did is I actually took apart a Gibbs pre-tie, so I can show you guys how I like to tie them. So this is 40-pound mono. You need 40 when you fish Hoochies because since it's limp plastic, it has no action to them. There's no bend in it like a spoon, so it's not going to spin in the water. It's just kind of going to like limp along and sort of do its thing. So you need a 40-pound leader that is short, and I'm talking like this short, like 18 inches, maybe like 22, 24 at the most. But the shorter the better, especially for Ko. Like Ko, I fish a 16-inch leader, and it gives the Hoochie so much action to play with. So when you set these up, you need to tie the 2 hooks on, so you have to snell both of them, or you can tie like bait loops basically. You tie 2 bait loops, and that's basically how you set it up. Obviously, you gotta watch your spacing. You don't want too big of a gap, right? Otherwise, you got one hook way too far back, and you don't want them too tight where you're not really covering the head. So I'll do my first one here. So I'll just 10 or so wraps. All right, grab this, send that drawn through. All right, so that's your hook. That's your first hook in. All right, and then your next hook. This is the tricky part. You want to offset the direction of your hook. So if you have one down, you want the next one to be facing up, right? And that's just going to increase your hookups. That's all it does, right? So you ideally want it to look something like that. One up, one down, okay? It's a little tricky. You really have to like wrangle your line, especially 40-pound mono. It's a bit, I'll be honest, it's a bit of a pain in the butt to tie with 40-pound mono, but I mean, you just get used to it. Just deal with it. You do what you got to do to make sure you have a good day out there. So I'm going to slide this down, right? And I'm going to see and make sure that this hook is riding the top side. So it sits like that, right? Doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to try and offset them as much. You never want this in your Hoochie. You always want one up, one down. Just fish is way better. So what I'll do here is grab my Hoochie, right? I'll see sort of how I want the distance to be. And you always got to compensate a little bit because you have spacers or beads in your Hoochie head. So I'll slide this down a yay bit. And that right there is basically ideal. You basically want the bend of your first hook or your bottom hook to be at basically the end of the legs or the end of the legs of the Hoochie basically. And now I'll do my second. All right, so there you go. You got hook 1 on, you got hook 2 on. You mess around with it, and look at that. You've got your offset hooks. You got one up, one down, and that is your ideal hook setup. It's okay if you don't get exactly opposite facing hooks, but try your best to really wrangle that line so you really try and get that offset one out the top, one out the bottom. So after you got this on, you have to have some sort of spacer, right? Because this head is a hollow, squishy head. It's hollow plastic, right? This is just going to collapse under pressure in the water. The water pressure is just going to squeeze it shut. It's not going to do anything. So there's a couple options you can do there, okay? You can go the gum pucky insert, right? And you can get these in clear. You can get them in glow. A lot of different options there. You can get mylar inserts to stuff in the head. These just add more flash. This is another style of mylar insert, or you can just fish them straight. The Gibbs ones, they come with beads, Here we go. They come with these clear beads that you stuff in the head. I like to always add flash to my Hoochies. There's no harm, no foul in adding flash to a Hoochie, especially a UV Hoochie that's going to be close to the surface of the water. Let's see what's suitable. I don't have any actual inserts I want to throw in this guy, so this guy I'm just going to leave straight. I'm just going to leave it with beads in it. Takes about 4 or so of these salmon beads to basically properly space and fill your Hoochie. And now, obviously, just make sure when you do this, you don't squish any of the legs when you slide this on. Trim some of this off because it's super twisted. So insert bottom to top. Oh, make sure you hang on to your line. Let's let your beads come off, just like that. So get these on. Insert through the bottom, and just carefully slide this down. Make sure you're trying to get the legs caught. All right. So like here, you can see the legs got caught on the inside there. So just pluck those out carefully. And just like that, your Hoochie is good to go. You can see the spacing is almost perfect. I'd say I have one too many beads in here, which is why it's trailing a little far back, but nothing wrong with that. That's basically where you want to be. That is your ideal, basically, Hoochie length with your hooks. I'll take one of these beads out later, not now because it's a waste of time, but this is ideal. And then now you want to measure your length, right? Leader length, nice and short. That is basically where you want to be. This is about ballpark 18 to 22 inches. And it's just basically take your tip of your fingers to about just past your elbow or at your elbow. That's where you want to be. You can pull off a little bit more to compensate for your knot that you're going to tie, and then you're good to go. When it comes to like what to tie to, you always tie to a 6-ball bead chain because it will get rid of all the twists in your line. I don't have any, and since I am comfortable with my knots, I just tie a double surgeons basically, and it creates a loop at the end of the line. I've never had a double surgeons loop break ever in my life, especially tying with 40 and 30-pound mono. It takes a lot to bust one of those knots open. If you're fishing a spoon, I definitely recommend you tie to a swivel because your spoon does spin, right? So you will have line twist. Hoochies, since they don't really spin per se, it's more just erratic movement. I'm perfectly comfortable with tying a loop knot basically like this. So now that is your Hoochie, and this guy here, I'm fishing for Chinooks later July, August when it's open, July 15th or so. Pop this John open, you pop your bottom clip open, throw in this case, my loop knot, or in everyone else's cases, it should be a 6-ball bead chain. Try not to rip my power cord. All right, that ball bearing will go to your dual lock snap, and then drop this down whatever feet you're fishing. In this case, this will be fishing at like 120 to 140, and you're fishing. There you go. This will spin, this will kick, and hopefully you catch a fish. If you don't, you probably have to swap it to something else. Unlucky. A note to be made about Hoochies. Since it's a soft plastic, if you leave it in the sun, in direct contact with hard plastics like this or those beads inside, it will melt and fuse together into goo. So make sure after you're done a day fishing, take it all apart, rinse it all off, and store your hoochie separate from everything else. Otherwise, yeah, it will weld into a disgusting mess that'll suck and an expensive, costly one because hoochies aren't cheap anymore. And of course, make sure you pinch your barbs. Doesn't matter if you're saltwater fishing. I suggest you always pinch your barbs, even if you're bottom fishing. And let's see, if you're vertical jigging, you're bound to catch a salmon vertical jigging like 60 feet of water. Like if you're fishing for lings or whatever, shallow, you'll end up bycatching salmon. So just pinch your barbs. There's nothing wrong with losing a fish or two on an unbarbed hook. And also, if you do get caught with barbs, I don't know what the penalty is. It's probably a fat fine. I haven't figured that out yet because I don't fish with barbs, but just a regulation thing. Whenever you're fishing for salmon, no barbs. So the last thing we'll look at is bait. We roll bait basically locally. We start rolling bait basically September 1st when the mouth of the Fraser opens up for those big white fleshed Chinooks that come back in the fall. That rig, I'll show you guys how to tie. Again, leader length for this guy is going to be ballpark around 5 to 6 feet. So for me, I know the tip of my finger to my breastplate is about 4 feet, and about here 6 feet. And then what I always do is I pull off a couple extra inches to compensate for every single knot I'm going to tie. So all my egg loop knots I'm going to tie, and also my knot to my swivel that I need to tie as well. Basically, your ideal length you want to start with is about 6 feet and a couple inches in change. And then basically after you tie all your knots, it'll come down to 6 feet. So when we fish bait, you need a trailer hook, just like a hoochie. But instead of running 2 singles, you run a treble at the head. As you see here, I fish gamakatsus basically. That's because I have faith in gamakatsus. Cameron and his dad love VMCs. Again, personal preference, and that's, you'll kind of just, as you fish and you grow a lot of confidence, you'll end up just sticking with what you know works best. So this guy here, again, you want to egg loop this. And I'll pre-pinch this barb so I don't have to deal with this later. Your barb, by the way, when you guys pinch this, should be basically flat. You should be able to run a finger on it and not get caught. Or what the DFO will do, they'll run it through their shirt. And if they pull it back, it gets caught, then it's not pinched down enough. So anchovies, if you buy the Reese Davis anchovies, okay, they're going to be about 5.5 to 6 inches. So we want to measure this out to around, I would say, I measure mine out to about 5 or so inches, just because also you got to think that the anchovy head's going to sit in a teaser head, so you won't get the full 5.5 to 6 inches. So a little bit shorter is fine. And then you have your treble. This goes near the head. This will go into the tail or the side of the body, depending on the length of your anchovy. This guy here, we just tie the exact same knot. That's that. That's your treble single. You run this through here. Bend this, that's right. Bend an L into the teaser head. Okay, so this is probably the trickiest part. So there's a hole right here it has to go through, and then there's a hole in the side here. You can barely see it right there at the tip of my finger it has to go through. And then your line has to come across and shoot out this side. And that's basically how you get your roll. The anchovy head will sit in here and use this peg here to peg through the head into the teaser head. And then ideally in the hole in this side hole here you have a toothpick and you peg that as well. And it just holds everything still. I'm not going to pull my anchovies out and show you how to, brine and rig, but that's basically your teaser head rig right there. You'll have one of these prongs in the side. You have this one probably go through the side and out, and then you'll get a nice roll. And then in the water, you'll want to watch your anchovy roll. And obviously, you can go tighter, a tighter roll, a wider roll. It just depends how you set this up. And then I'll tie this end later to a 6-ball bead chain. And this right here is your teaser head setup. That's that guy here. With the teaser heads, obviously they come in a lot of different colors. I just go with clear chartreuse because I'm only going to fish this for Chinooks later in September at the mouth of the Fraser. If that opens up, hopefully it does. And yeah, like basically Chinook fishing, just lots of chartreuse. That's basically that. I never fish bait for coho. Coho, they tend to hit it. They'll sometimes miss it. And then if they absolutely shred your anchovy, then well, you got to pull it up and reset up. And that's why for coho I'll fish Hoochies and spoons because even if I get hit and they miss it, whatever, just leave it down there, let it soak. Nothing wrong with that. So that's basically that for Hoochie spoons and teaser heads. I personally can't really think of a whole lot more to go over. That's basically it. Um, if you got any questions, send them down below, or you can message me on Instagram. I'm on my phone a lot. I'll link a lot of stuff below. I'll link my personal rod and reel setup. I'm not going to link all the different subs or rods I went over per se. If you want to go look at rods and reels, go check out your local tackle store. If you're in Vancouver, I highly suggest PA, not because I work there, but because Jason and Jordan, Taylor, a lot of those guys are really dialed in when it comes to saltwater fishing, especially locally here. There's not a whole lot of other guys I would ask other than those guys at PA. They really know their stuff. So yeah, that's basically that. Hope you guys found this video interesting. I know it's a long one, a lot of parts to it, but that's how she goes, when you're doing gear sub videos. They're nice and long, very informative. So anyway, that's that. I'm gonna clock out. I'll see you guys at the next adventure, potentially, maybe another gear video, who knows. But yeah, I'll see you guys around.